Hey howdy, hey y'all, Leanna here. And today we're moving on to bronzers and face palettes. We're going to go through my collection of bronzers and face palettes, and I'm hoping to declutter some of these and reduce my collection down to a more manageable size, full of products that I love and that I love to use so that I can use my makeup. My goal in 2023 is to use my makeup. I tell y'all all the time to pull your makeup out and play with it. So let's get on into it and see how much of this I can declutter. Okay, I'm going in alphabetical order. I did throw in 2 contour products because those were the only 2 contour products I had. So I'm starting out with 39 products. Not too many, but let's see what we can get it down to. The very first product is this Bare Minerals Invisible Bronze, and it is in the shade Tan. And this is my absolute all-time favorite bronzer. I love this bronzer so much, and you can see where I've got some holes in it. I do use it quite frequently, but I do try not to use it as much as I want to because it has been discontinued, which makes me extremely sad, and I have looked online to try to find some on Mercari or Poshmark or eBay, and I have not been able to find it. I absolutely love this bronzer. It lives on my vanity. So I am definitely keeping that. Actually, I should have started out with my Anastasia Beverly Hills bronzer. This is Rich Amber. I have used this quite a few times. On the monitor, it looks quite warm, but in the pan, it looks very cool to me, and I love a cool tone bronzer. I do enjoy this bronzer, and I am going to keep it. Next we have Aesthetica, and as you can see, some of the lettering is starting to come off. Even though I have not really used this bronzer, this is Sunset Bronzer, and it is a very light bronzer. It leans more to the warm side, but it is very light, and I think that that would be good for the winter time. So for now I am going to keep it. It may end up in a future declutter. And now getting into the B's. This is Basic Beauty. This is Bronzy AF, and as you can see, I have never used it. It still has the shade saver in it, and I do not plan to use it, so this is going in the declutter pile. Next up is this Complex Culture. This is in the shade Sunbath, or it's Sunbath Baked Bronzer, and the shade is just right. I'm not real sure, and I have used this bronzer, but it is a little on the glowy side, and I'm not much on glowy bronzer, so I'm going to declutter that. Back to the B's, because I skipped over this Becca. This is Sunset Waves, and I'm not gonna lie, I bought this because I thought it was pretty, and want to talk about glowy. There's a whole lot of glow happening in there, so I am definitely decluttering that one. And Benefit. This is a little mini Hoola Benefit Matte Powder Bronzer, and I believe this is in the shade Light. And I've had this for quite a while. It's starting to come apart. I have used this enough that the embossing is almost gone. It is a very pretty bronzer. I do like it. Sometimes I will use it on my eyes, so I am going to keep that. Going back to the C's, I have this Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Film Star Bronze and Glow Face Sculpt and Highlight Palette. This is in light medium. It is definitely a very, very light bronzer, and I have not used it. I will be using this in an upcoming full face of Charlotte Tilbury video, so I'm keeping this. And then I have this Hollywood contour wand, which, you know, kind of broke the internet. This is in the shade Fair Medium, and I waited for a very long time for this to come back in stock, and I will be using this in the same upcoming video. I'm very excited to give this a try. Super excited about it. The next product is this CXC Beauty. This is Refined Radiance Bronzer in the shade N2. It is very dark, but it is kind of a cool toned bronzer. It looks cool toned on my skin, and that may work as a nice contour. I'm going to put that in the maybe pile. And then I have this little e.l.f. putty bronzer, and it is in the shade Feelin' Shady. But I'm telling you, that does not look like a bronzer to me. That looks like a contour. It is a cream formula. It is very gray, but it immediately changes to a powder, and I think that that would be a very nice contour shade, so I am keeping that. Next is this M Cosmetics. This is the Corselet Sculpting Bronze Powder in Slip. This is a very pretty bronzer, and I have not had this long. I was enticed into buying this because they had a sale, and if you bought the bronzer, which was on sale, I think it was only like $38. Yes, I think it was $38, and I got it for $30.60 with a coupon. But I also got a free Refer face brush. So I thought that that was a very good deal, and I have used it. I do like it, and I am going to keep it. Next is the Essence Sun Club Matte Bronzing Powder, and it is in the shade 01 Natural. I have seen a lot of good reviews for this bronzer. It is a very pretty bronzer. I have not used it yet. It is not showing up very well on my skin, and it may or may not end up in a future declutter. Next is this Hikari Tahini Matte Bronzer, and it is a very unusual mix of marbled colors in there, and it has a pink tone to it, and I do not have a pink undertone to my skin. Even though it doesn't really look bad, it's not something that excites me, so I am going to declutter that. The packaging on that as well seems to be very cheap. Next up is another one of my favorite bronzers. This is the Juvia's Place. This is in the shade Light. It has a mirror in it, and it has two sides to it. This is, for me, more of like a contour shade. I kind of use that to contour and then use this as my bronzer. It is a very good formula, and this little bronzing palette normally lives on my vanity because it is one of my favorites, and I am keeping it. Next we have Kimchi Tailored Bronzer in I Went to Miami. I got this in one of my subscription boxes, and it is very dark, but it is buttery smooth. It is a very warm bronzer, and I don't tend to lean warm in my bronzers. So I am going to declutter this one. Next up is this Kokie Matte Bronzer in Stay Golden. I just got this in a Kokie mystery box. It has a elephant embossed in the bronzer, and it's very soft and smooth. But this as well leans kind of warm, and it looks a little orange to me. It is definitely not my shade, and so I am going to declutter that. And then we have LA Girl Matte Bronzer in the shade Sunset Glow. I just recently got this in a haul. I had been wanting it and could not find it. This, well, they both look to lean more on the cool side, which is what I am drawn to. So I am definitely going to be keeping this. I have used it a few times. The Laura Geller Baked Bronze and Brighten in the shade Medium. This is my second all-time favorite bronzer, right behind Bare Minerals. I love this bronzer. It leans kind of cool on me, which I like. It may have just a slight sheen to it, but I absolutely love it and I'm keeping it. LYS is another favorite right behind the other two. I absolutely love this bronzer. This is the No Limits matte bronzer in the shade Motivate, which is a light shade. Very, very pretty bronzer. I have really enjoyed this bronzer since I got it, and I am keeping it. And because Andy does stuff, I believe it was Andy, I'm pretty sure it was Andy, said that this bronzer was really good. This is the Mega Bronzer in 01 Cool, and like I said, I like a cool bronzer. This as well still has the tape on it. I picked this up one day when I was at Ulta because I couldn't find it anywhere else. Yep, that is a very nice cool bronzer. So I'm going to throw this in my Shop My Stash as well. I am determined to use up my products this year. Next is my Marc Jacobs Omega Bronze in Tantric. Tantric. I love this bronzer. This was one of the very first bronzers that I bought, and I unboxed it or did a haul video, my very first haul video from Marshall's, and I have been using it ever since. I have made a very tiny little dent in there, but I love this bronzer. It stays on my vanity quite frequently, and I'm keeping it. Maybelline City Bronzer. I have, before I started my channels, watched many other YouTubers talk about how great this bronzer is. This is in the shade 100. So I bought it and I have used it, and it is a nice bronzer, and I am going to keep it. Somehow I ended up with two Milani bronzers. This is the Baked Bronzer in Dulce, and this does have just a little bit of a glow to it. Not very much, but now that I'm putting it on, it looks kind of orange on me. So I am going to, surprisingly, declutter that. I wasn't expecting that to happen. But you know, sometimes when you're just getting started, you're not really sure what your shade should be. This is the Silky Matte Sunlight bronzing powder. Sunlight is the shade 01, and this is a nice light bronzer. That is a nice color on me. I think that that would be a good winter shade. So I am keeping that. And then I have a little NARS mini sample. Came in one of my boxes. This is Laguna. And I believe I have tried this. It appears to have a little bit of a luminosity to it. It is a nice shade on me. I think I will throw that in my Shop My Stash to see whether or not I like it, and it may end up in a, you know what? No. I'm going to declutter this because even if I like it, I am not going to buy a NARS bronzer. So I may as well just declutter it. I don't know how I skipped over this Ciate London. This is Bamboo Bronzer in the shade Palm Allen. I have used this bronzer a couple of times too. I do not believe that this is the correct shade for me. It is not. It looks a little orange on my skin. You can't really see it. But to me, it looks a little orange. So I am going to declutter that. I have a little mini Natasha Denona Bronze and Glow bronzer and highlighter, and I have used this as well. This is a nice bronzer on me. I believe I may have bought this at Sephora. And that's the highlighter. I'll just put it right on top of the bronzer. It's just a very soft highlight. So I am keeping that. Next I have these two nude sticks. This is a full size and this is a sample. And I really do like nude sticks. I enjoy their bronzers. I really like their lipsticks. This shade is Sun-Kissed, and it says that it's an all-over bronzer. But this, to me, just looks like a blush. I don't know. It has a little bit of a rosy undertone to it, and I would use this as a blush. I have used it as a bronzer. It has a brush on the end of the stick and it blends out beautifully. They're very moisturizing and just super easy to work with. It's just a very, very pretty color, but I would rather use that as a blush than a bronzer. This little stick, which is in the shade Bondi Bay, this is an all-over bronzer as well, and this is a really good bronzer color for me. This as well just blends out really, really nice. Very moisturizing, hydrating, and very easy to work with. Next, I have my Physician Formula bronzers. The Maru Butter Bronzer was the very first, one of the very first bronzers that I bought after I bought that Marc Jacobs. Because, you know, everybody was using it. And you can see I have hit pan, and this was my second. I went through one full package of the bronzer. It normally has a little sponge in there, but I throw that away because I don't use it. I'm sure y'all all know. Everybody knows about this bronzer. It is kind of glowy, which I was not a huge fan of, but not terribly glowy. It is a nice bronzer. And it has that wonderful, wonderful beachy smell to it. Absolutely love it, and that's why I have a backup, although I haven't used it in a while. This one still has the little applicator sponge in it, but I am keeping both of those. And then I was in Target the other day, or a couple of weeks ago, and I saw this matte formula for the butter bronzer, and this is Mani butter bronzer. It has that classic smell to it, and I have used this a couple of times. It is a very nice bronzer. Nice and soft, very buttery, just like the classic Physicians formula, so I am keeping that. And then I also picked up this sculpting bronzer. It's got jojoba oil in it, and it says organic wear, because Physicians formula is supposed to be a clean brand. This seems kind of dark. It's very sticky. What is the problem? The top of it had dried out. That looks like a hot mess. And it smells funny, like it's gone rancid. So this will obviously be going in the trash, but just for kicks and giggles. It is very cool toned. I bet that would have been nice. Yep, it is not good. So I will be throwing that in the trash. That was in the shade Mocha, by the way. And I liked that shade. I may have to repurchase. And next is the other contour that I have, and it is the Sephora Colorful Contour in Second Chance. I have not been able to find this again. It is a very, very cool toned contour. It's very gray. It leaves the perfect shadow, and I really do like it. This lives on my vanity all the time, so I am definitely keeping it. And then we have this Tarte Amazonian Clay waterproof bronzer in Park Avenue Princess. Super cute packaging. This was another one of the very first bronzers that I purchased, because I believe that this is a OG cult favorite, but this as well has somewhat of a illuminating, shiny, I don't like it. I've held on to it and tried to make it work, and I just do not like it, so I am decluttering that. And then I have this Trestique. This is Color Contour Cheek Stick in Brazilian Bronze. It says not for sale. I think it was in a box. BoxyCharm, Ipsy. I don't remember which. The camera is not focused. That seems very warm on my skin. It has a magnetic closure, and there is a brush on the other end. It brushes out nice, but I do not like that warm color, so I will unfortunately be decluttering that. I have two more bronzers left, This is Vesca Vegan Cruelty Free Soft Matte Bronzing Powder Kissed by Rio. It is a very pretty bronzer. I have used this quite a few times as well. This for me is a good wintertime bronzer. Actually, it's very light, but I could use that as a finishing powder as well. But I do like it. It's a nice formula, and I am going to keep it. And the last bronzer that I have is this Wet n Wild Color Icon What Shady Beaches. This was gifted to me when I first started my channel so that I would have some products to do videos with, which I thought was very, 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 very sweet of my friends to do that for me. But looking at this bronzer now, it is very warm on my skin, and like I said, I prefer a cooler toned bronzer. So unfortunately, even though this has sentimental value, I am going to declutter it. My friends will love me anyway. Right, friends? So that leads me back to the CXC Beauty bronzer, and I think I don't know. What am I doing? I'm gonna swatch this one more time. On the monitor it looks warm, but on my skin it looks very cool toned. So I think I am going to keep it since I have decluttered 12 of my bronzers. So those are the bronzers. Let's move on to the face palettes. Okay, starting out with my face palettes, I have this Anastasia Beverly Hills Contour Cream Kit. This is in Light, Fair, Neutral, Banana, Java, Light Sculpt, and Havana are the shades. This is very cool toned. And I have not really used this at all. So I am going to keep it for now so that I can try it out. It may end up in a future declutter. Next, I have this Anastasia Italian Summer Face Palette. It is a bronzer, blush, and highlighter. This as well is very cool toned, and I am definitely going to keep that. And then I have this Becca Pro Pop Goes the Glow. It has champagne pop, caramel, truffle, berry, and pink cream. And it is very pretty. And I have swatched it, but I have never used it. Oh, I was fully intending to declutter this palette. That's really pretty. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, that's really pretty too. That would be a pretty eyeshadow topper. I wouldn't wear that on my cheeks. This blush feels very, very dry, but it is very pretty. That is a pretty blush. Very pretty. I am very drawn to these two. My mind is telling me to depot that and that. I am going to declutter. Next is my BH Cosmetics Belgian Waffle Palette. I love this palette. Love it, love it, love it. I'm keeping it. And then we have my Dior Backstage Contour Palette. It has a light and a deep highlighter and a light and a deep contour. And I have used this palette some. I have not used it enough. So I am going to keep it and put it in rotation to be used. Then I have this Glam Light S'mores palette. And this contour, this chocolate contour is too warm for me. But these highlighters are beautiful. This actually kind of reminds me of the Michaela highlighter. It is very, very pretty. I'm going to put that in the maybe pile for now. And then I have this Hip Dot Moon Queen 6 shade face palette. Anybody that knows me knows why I bought this, because the whole Moon Queen kind of got to me. And I have swatched this palette, but I really have not used it. That looks a little cool, but leans more warm. It looks more cool on my finger. That is not a color that I'm going to wear. I'm not going to wear this pink either, though that looks really pretty, but I know when I did my blushes, I'm pretty sure that maybe the Natasha Denona had that shade in it. That is a beautiful highlight. That was Light Beam, and this is Stellar. Ooh. That has like a yellow undertone to it. That is really pretty. I am going to put this in the maybe pile as well because, again, my brain is telling me that I can depot those highlighters. And I have another Hip Dot palette. This is Sun Goddess. Again, if you know me, and I believe that I have swatched this. It is a pretty palette, but it is not speaking to me, so I am definitely going to declutter that one. This is my Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit Universe Unlocked palette. The only reason I have this palette is because I found it on sale. This palette is normally $80 to $85, and I picked it up on sale for $56. Otherwise, I would not have it. I love these blushes. You can tell that they are a little glowy, and everything else in here is glowy. And y'all know I don't like glowy. But I paid $56 for this palette, and I am going to keep it. This is the I Heart Revolution Waffle palette. This was gifted to me from a friend, and it is a very pretty palette. This color is way too warm for me, but all of the rest of these are colors that I can wear. I love this maple syrup color down here, and I do like Flip as well. Toasted, I can wear Toasted, and of course the batter, which is the powder, I can wear, so I'm going to keep it for these. I will not use that, but I will use the rest of them. This is the iconic London Multi-Use Sculpting Palette, and I just got this palette in one of my boxes, and I used it, and I really did enjoy it. So I am going to keep it and continue to play around with it because I really am starting to, you can see all the fingerprints, hate the packaging. I'm really starting to enjoy playing around with cream products. This is the Kenya Ontiveros Set and Define Kit, and these colors are very, very warm. That is a very pretty pink highlighter, but I am not going to use any of these shades because they're so warm, so I am going to declutter this one. This is my NYX Professional Highlight and Contour Pro Palette. I got this palette on sale at Walmart, believe it or not, for like $12. I think this palette normally runs for $25. I like that you can pop the shades out and replace them. That is really nice. I have used this palette a lot. You can see it's all dusty and needs to be cleaned. I love this highlighter for my inner corner and brow highlight, but I love how cool the tones are. I will sometimes use this palette to do a complete eye look for work. That's how much I love it. I'm definitely keeping it. This lives on my vanity all the time. And next I have an Ofra palette. This is Ofra X Madison Miller. And in a previous declutter video I said that I had decluttered every Ofra product that I had. And this is the one product that I am not going to declutter. You can see that I have used this palette quite a bit. I like that blush. And Ofra has amazing highlighters. Both of these highlighters are really nice. They look nice on me. So finally an Ofra palette that I'm keeping. But I will not buy any Ofra products. Then we have this Physicians Formula Butter Collection X. And it's hard to read her name. Wayless? I believe that she is an influencer, but I am not 100% positive. And I saw this palette and I had to have it. And when I got it, it was broke. You can see this is just wiggling around in there. Their highlighters are very buttery. Look how pretty that is. I love the shades of these blushes, but they're glowy. You can see how they're kind of glowy. And that is a deep bronzer. And this is a sunset bronzer. But I don't want to keep it just for the bronzer, so I'm going to declutter that. That was a total waste of money. Next is my Pretty Vulgar Nesting Bitch Face. This was one of the first face palettes that I got in one of my boxes. Don't remember which one. BoxyCharm. Glossy Box, one of those. And I was just over the moon excited about this because I was not used to face palettes, and I did use it, but I have not touched it in a long time, and that is very glowy. Very, very glowy. And I do like this blush, although it feels kind of dry because I've had this for a while. But that is a nice blush. But I am not going to use it, so I am going to surprisingly declutter it. Next is this Fair Light 4-in-1 Skin Perfecting Powders face palette. It is a very pretty palette, and I have used it a couple of times, and I do like it, and I think I am going to keep it. We're down to the wire now, y'all. We're almost done. Real Her Ultimate Glow Getter Cheek Duo. The colors are too dark, and this blush is too light, so I will be decluttering that. Tarteist Pro Glow. This is another palette that I bought at the very beginning of my journey. I love those highlighters. They are beautiful, and this is a very nice cool tone contour. And when I first got it, I had no idea what to do with this cream bronzer, and I am amazed that it is still usable. It still smells good. Look at that beautiful cool tone contour. So I am excited to try this palette again now that I have a clue what it is that I'm supposed to do with this beautiful product. So I am keeping it. This Too Faced Cocoa Contour palette I bought for my very first Marshall's haul video, and I have used this quite a bit, and I just don't know, y'all. I don't know whether I want to keep it, because the only two shades that I would use in it are these two. And again, my brain is going, well, depot it and you can put those in a palette, but I'm not going to do that. So sadly, because this brings back memories, but sadly I am going to declutter that. And my very last face palette is my True and Luscious Lucky Glow Bronze and Highlight palette. And as you can see, I have used the hell out of this palette. I love it. It lives on my vanity. I have used up that bronzer, which was called Good Fortune. I'm currently working on this one, which is Serendipity. I like this highlight the best, but I have used that one a little bit. I have used that one a little bit. And I can see the grid marks, these grid marks, in that blush because I have used that quite a bit as well. I even bought a backup of this palette, but when I was going through all my palettes to get them ready for this video, I couldn't find it. I may have given it away because that's what I do sometimes. I am definitely putting this palette back on my vanity. I love it that much. Pulling the Hip Dot and the Glam Light back. That highlighter is just too beautiful for me to let go. I am going to keep this and I will probably depot those. But I am going to let the Moon Queen go. So I started out with 22 face palettes. I have decluttered 8 of those and I have 14 left in my collection. That's not too bad. I feel like I did a pretty good job on my face palettes and my bronzers. My bronzers were 39, I decluttered 12, and I have 27 left. So that's all of this bronzer and face palette declutter video. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Before you go down there and show that like button some love. And as always, I'd like to remind you that makeup is meant to enhance the natural beauty that you already are, and we are all beautiful at any age and any size. Find something to be grateful for today. Pull your bronzers and face palettes out and play with them, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye-bye, Christopher. If you have learned anything from your mama's declutter series, it's not to get hooked on makeup or phonics, either one, okay? Just go fishing. Save your money. Don't buy a lot of fishing stuff either, okay? Just save your money. Mama loves you, boo.